Hey guys, Everseen here. Just a little update on what I'm actually going to league start in HCSSF. Not really sure, to be honest. There are some good candidates, but ultimately, nothing. I don't really want to play most of the builds, to be honest. Fissure of Snaking obviously was really good in Phrecia League. I played Ancestral Commander and dumpstered the game on that skill. So I think it's going to be Volcanic Fissure of Snake and Berserker. You could go Jugg if you want to be a little bit safer. I think, honestly, Berserker's a little bit squishy in the beginning, but obviously later on at the very end game, you're like quite tanky and do a lot more damage than Jugg. So I think ultimately that's what I'm going to go with. I know it's a very popular build right now. So, you know, like FaZe Plays is another fellow HCSSF enjoyer. So I would definitely check out his guides and POBs and stuff. I'm going to show you like my setups, roughly like what I kind of plan to do. But yeah, it's his is really good. He put a lot of effort into it, and so I could totally recommend. And he's kind of like the founder of this skill. Like he was the one who's really like trial and erroring it before even like Settlers League, like before Phrecia even happened, and Ancestral Commander was crazy. Yeah, another thing too is I'm not sure, but like Wave of Conviction of Trarthus, Fartus, whatever the hell you want to call these. I don't know why they made the name like that. It's so weird, but looks really interesting. Actually, I kind of want to play it, but only having one at a time seems ridiculous in my opinion. Yeah, I just feel like it should work like any other Nova skill, like Ice Nova or whatever, that you can just like use it like on Frostbolt or something if you wanted to. But the one thing that I'm not sure about, and it's I'll have to test it, is on Totems. So I mean, we've seen like Ball Lightning of Static Totems and stuff like that, where you know, obviously it was an unintended interaction, but Wave of Conviction Trarthus Totems could be a play if basically it means that you can only have one Wave of Conviction at a time, but it means at a time per totem. So instead of self-casting, where you're limited of one, say you have, you know, 3 totems, then you have a limit of 3 Wave of Convictions kind of thing. That's the only way I could see this skill actually being playable, personally. And then another one I saw last night looked really good was Spectral Throw of Trarthus, and I was thinking about Saboteur. The only thing is because Spectral Throw, most of the time you actually have to add the projectiles to it, whether it's Fury Valve, whether it's GMP, all these other things that actually, like, you know, GMP takes away damage from the skill itself. But if you're getting 5 proj instead of 1, I think it could be like really, really good and scale really good in the end game because you're just getting the free projectiles, so you can just scale damage. Another thing too that's like this is another really good build. I'm still not even sure if I want to league start BAMA Guardian. The only thing is farming the Transfigured Gem in normal lab. I really don't want to do that. So it might be a backup league starter. Like maybe I'll try and get a gem or something in Merc Lab while I'm farming for V-Fissure. I don't know what I want to do. But BAMA Guardian is going to be ridiculous. I've got a POB here from one of my buddies in the guild that he projects like 13.4 mil DPS, and I don't even think he has any of the, like, he has some of his specters and stuff in here. Yeah, but he doesn't have basically the mercenaries, so like lucky hits with Perkle's Toe. There's also Doriani's Prototype that might work with that, right? So there's a lot of like really cool things. And then another cool thing he did was he added Supreme Ostentation, so he can just put tattoos everywhere in the build to solve a bunch of issues, like armor and, you know, evasion and all that stuff. So this is a cool POV. I'll put it in the description as well. He's pretty cool. He plays BAMA to like level 100 almost every single league, right? So yeah, he definitely knows what he's doing. The cool thing, though, is he was using Unwavering Faith, which is another thing I was thinking about, and he was using a quadruple purity setup. So, for one, this is going to be really good for max res, which you can see he has 88 all. And then another thing is it's just going to give you tons of additional elemental resistances, which is basically like helping you with your gear. So it frees up some suffixes as well on your gear, which is really cool. And then obviously we're going to use Jinx Juju and then, you know, the Sentinel to be able to take, you know, life from Spectres or the Sentinel before yours. And then the classic, you know, like million of minion jewels and then Stygian Vise to buff, you know, some really good ones. But yeah, this looking like a really good build, especially with the new glove modifiers for Blink Arrow, Mirror Arrow as well. Yeah, like I could not, you know, recommend playing BAMA Guardian enough if you don't care about farming the first lab, especially in hardcore. This is going to be like a ridiculous build. And like day 2, day 3, if you're, you know, really pushing, you can go in and just pretty much do quest Exarch for free. You can just blast him in, you know, 5 seconds and then not even have to do a ball phase potentially. So yeah, so BAMA Guardian looks cool. Some other second builds that I'm thinking of is Smite Champion Armor Stacker. So I haven't really like figured out anything with this, but there's so many things that are good about Champion. The fortification thing, being able to stack max fortification. Once, you know, if I could get to Uber Exarch and get the gloves, then that would be sort of the idea, you know, Dream Feather and like start our aura stacking. I just think Smite with Champion and Armor Stacker is going to probably be one of the builds of the league. I think it's going to be an absolute fucking powerhouse. Dual Strike Vambi Dexterity Champion also seems cool. I would probably go for an Impale variant with the Bloodthirst support. The one that basically gives you more damage for being on half life or something like that. And then I would use something like Petrified Blood on like, say, like 8,000 HP or something. Just to get basically, you know, a free Progenesis and be at the max life that I would normally be on a champion, to make it, you know, really worthwhile. That's like basically we're going to use Petrified Blood is because we want to be able to take advantage of like the low life and adrenaline on this. So yeah, you basically just press your life flask and you have adrenaline. So another build too is Burning Arrow Vigor Elementalists. Uber Dan actually played this about a year ago in hardcore, and he played hardcore trade and had an Adorned, so I'm not even really sure if it's viable, but yeah, the buffs to the skill look pretty decent for damage wise, and then also the buff for golems looks pretty cool with like the flame or the damage over time golem and stuff like that. So this is another thing that I'm thinking about doing. Could be cool. All of the Trarthus gems really don't look like anything crazy to me though. But yeah, I've got basically Sunder leveling here, which I'll link in the description. A lot of this could be subject to change. I mean, a lot of it is a speed running mentality. So like, you know, using close combat on Sunder, you know, if you want more damage, once you're like Act 5 plus and you have tons of attack speed, if you're on Zerker, then you can kind of go for like a 5 red gem setup. I didn't put any like ascendancies in here. It's just a straight up Marauder tree. Everything I think that's important for leveling Marauder right now. You know, classic Bastion Breaker, the additional Exert for Intimidating Cry. But yeah, Act 1 and stuff, like you're grabbing Intimidating Cry. You can grab Shield Charge. If you get some extra Wisdom Scrolls, you know, just kit yourself out with a bunch, you know, chance to bleed. You'll get momentum for free. And yeah, you just sort of blast. But I'm going to show you guys my POB. I'll have this link in the description too. Just keep in mind that I'm not too crazy and I'm not like too serious about making full-fledged POBs right now. I just don't have the time, and I've sort of just imported my character and fucked around with a bunch of things. But Volcanic Fissure Snaking Berserker is ultimately what I think I'm going to go for. I do want to play Jugg, but I just find Jugg like kind of lacks on damage. As opposed to Berserker, just because Berserker has so much damage, and the double exerts is really, really good for damage, honestly. Yeah, I don't know. I have like a mace tree in here, because I basically imported my character from Phrecia, and then switched around a couple things, but this is like roughly what I was playing, and then I switched it to Berserker. 7.2 million DPS, it's alright. Axes with a Kaom's Primacy, 9 mil DPS. And then we've got Axe's Final Endgame, which is like 10 mil. I think it's more than that, actually, but I don't know what I would have done wrong. I'm not on the right weapon set. Okay, so it's like 15 mil. So yeah, this is Kaom's Primacy setup. This is the Mace's setup with like my pile driver from Phrecia League. And then yeah, I'm using like just Kaom's Primacy. It's just so good, honestly, especially on a Zerker, because you know, the attacks per second is really bad, but once you're on a Zerker ban and you just got so much attack speed, it just doesn't even matter. I did slot in a double corrupted one here. I would be going for double corrupts on these nonstop. I would want like attack speed and fortify, or you know, there's AoE, which is really nice, but like attack speed is kind of you can grab it if you want. It's good, but you don't need it. But yeah, Fortify, really, really good to get. I mean, then you get a 6-link it, but it's fine because you can use Tainted Fusings to get an easy 6-link for that. So it's really not that bad because, I mean, it's going to be corrupted, so why not? But yeah, Kaom's Primacy, it looks pretty cool, honestly, and it's really cheap to get. And then, you know, basically you don't have to get a mid-game axe. You can just sort of work on a final end-game axe, like, you know, like this. So, yeah, 15 million DPS. I mean, you're getting only 5 mil. Yeah, I mean, it's like 50% more damage with, you know, a better axe. So that is the goal. But yeah, I do have echoes on like the axes one too. You could just take this off if you don't want it. Like you can put this on instead, and you see the damage goes down to like 5 mil. So echoes, Yoke of Suffering are pretty much the biggest damage increases, and then obviously a really good axe. So I have Forbidden Taste on too. I like using this for bosses. You can take this off though. It's just basically whenever you take like a really big hit, you'll recover pretty much all your life. So yeah, you don't have to use this. I just had it on because it was already on my character. So a lot of this is not optimized. I did put a Light of Meaning and then also the Glorious Vanity for Immortal Ambition, which is super good with this build. And another thing I want to mention is, like, basically in Volcanic Fissure Snaking, I've gone for sort of like a full fire version. My items, you can see on my gauntlets that I have like converted to fire damage, and then I have converted to cold damage. The cold damage just so you can get a little bit of chill, which is another increase in damage for Yoke of Suffering. And then the fire damage is just to get more fire damage. You could put cold damage if you want, if you're going to use Trinity. Make sure you only do 24%. I believe FaZe made 2 really good comments in one of his videos, is you don't want to convert all of your physical damage because you want to be able to bleed and poison. So that is basically, in this POB currently, it's like 1 million DPS, 1.2 million DPS at top end, right? So being able to inflict bleed and poison is really good. And the way you do that is you just get 1 bleed tattoo, and then you're going for a poison jewel. So that's not even the right one, this one. So just chance to poison on hit, and B Fissure Snaking hits so much that eventually you are going to bleed and poison. So yeah, and then I did increase Warcry cooldown recovery rate tattoos. This is really, really end game because you're only really going to use that once you're using Immortal Ambition, because this Immortal Ambition being in this spot basically bricks all the nodes around it. So you really want to like not be taking any of this increased Warcry cooldown recovery rate wheel, because we're going to brick it with the jewel, right? So that's why all these tattoos are here. You can obviously add more, but this is just what I had, what I felt was decent, and I basically was just doing it so that my config said I have 99% uptime, so good enough. If I get another one, maybe I'll throw it on, whatever. But yeah, Light of Meaning for Fizz, really good spot here because we've got tons of nodes. Even more if you go into like all this axe stuff, but I just didn't feel like I wanted to. I wanted to focus more on the clusters. We're using a dual suppress cluster right now with Inveterate Anoint, because if we're not using Inveterate, we have to use triple cluster, and that's just a lot of points. So I figure, you know, just using Inveterate is just a safe bet. We don't need to use Admonisher anymore because Ancestral Commander was like basically reducing all of our Warcry speed. Now that we have like normal Warcry speed on a Zerker, then we just go Inveterate, which is a super easy anoint. And yeah, there's not too much else to talk about other than probably the skills. Like, this is what I have set up. I have Waken Fire Pen in here. You could put it on if you want. It does overall give you, you know, a marginal DPS increase based on all the other stuff. But if your fire penetration is high, it's not the greatest for when you're using the Inversion Mastery. So it's going to be all on how this feels. Yeah, if a monster has 90% fire resistance and then you take it down by 50 and then it gets inverted, you're kind of fucking up your own damage. Your overall damage, though, might be higher with just the penetration. So that's just a thing to think about as well. You could also take out, you know, Divine Judgment. You could go into Divine Fury and take the Mastery as well with this fire version if you really wanted to. I just didn't bother. It's roughly the same damage, so I just said screw it. You could even take these 2 points along with it. You get tons of damage. But yeah, clusters, you're pretty much going for Field of Fight. Heavy Hitter, Calamitous, Smite the Weak, like they're all fine. You can use anything you want, really. I went for attack damage, and then Feed the Furies, more damage while leeching, increased attack speed while leeching. We're always going to be leeching because of Immortal Ambition. So yeah, build looks, decent. I'm just worried about the tankiness, obviously. Has 19k max fizz hit here, which is pretty decent. And then with Molten Shell up, it'll be even more, right? So Molten Shell, it's 27k max fizz. So pretty good. You can eat an Uber Shaper Slam. So yeah, I mean, the last thing I should talk about too is with Berserker and the Ascendancy Changes. I know Ben's been a big advocate of like Defy Pain, and I know a lot of people are basically cookie cutting and doing this setup. There's two things about it that I don't like. One is that you have tons of degen, because if you have 53 rage, you have 5.3% life degen, which is really bad for recovery. And on top of that, Defy Pain, it's like the times you want this to save you, it won't. For example, would be like on slammers, like a common death would be like goats in a map, and all the projectiles hitting you without suppress will really fuck you up. So, when you're using Defy Pain, basically what it's saying is you can gain Defiance for 10 seconds, but no more than every 0.3 seconds. So if everything hits you in 0.1 seconds, then you effectively don't have any defense from Defy Pain at all, and you're just getting 3% of missing unreserved life. It just seems like a really bait node, in my opinion. So yeah, I've opted to drop Rite of Ruin. I took Aspect of Carnage. For one, this is a really huge damage increase. I mean, already I get 2 million more damage. Yes, we are taking more damage, which sucks, but if we're not going to use Defy Pain, for example, we can go into Gore Dancer, and I think 30% of Life Leech is instant with Immortal Ambition is actually really, really good, because we have that Overleech. And yeah, I mean, if we could get access to like, something like Ghost Reaver, where your maximum total leech is doubled and stuff, like if you invest into leech a little bit, like Life Leech here, maybe it'll be even better. I don't think it's going to be much better, but yeah, 30% of damaged leech is pretty good, honestly. And you also get increased total recovery here. So our net recovery goes 951 to 1162, but some of it's instant, right? So that's sort of my thoughts on it. Don't know if I really like Defy Pain. That's about it for that, really. But we're going to try it out. But that's just kind of my thoughts on the Zerker. I really think that Zerker's kind of squishy. I'm not really too excited to use it. I know Zerker does a lot of damage, and it's just like a get good sort of mentality for the class, but I'm just not a fan. Configuration, we use Punishment, 50% less curse effect, and then we put Always on Low Life. This is something that I saw FaZe do, and the explanation for it was basically that if you put the less curse effect, you're essentially saying that the enemy is going to be on low life half the time when you're attacking, so that's where that kind of calculates. But yeah, we're using Power, Frenzy Charges, Onslaught because of our cluster. We're going to be Fortified, we're going to have Max Rage, we're going to be Leeching, whatever. Just going over the configs that I'm actually using for the build. The Bleed, Poison, Ignite, Chilled, Shocked, Cool, 50% of Shock. You could be more modest and say like 20% if you want, or even 30%. But 50% ideally is going to be your Shock when you're bossing and stuff with Echoes of Creation, just because you're going to have so much damage, right? So, and then Intimidate from Intimidating Cry, and then Covered in Ash is going to be from Infernal Cry, which personally I like to self-cast Infernal Cry and Rallying Cry, just for their intended buffs. So yeah, pretty good. I mean, for Ubers, it's 4.5 million DPS. For Guardian Pinnacle, it's 15 mil DPS. Another thing too is Tincture. Taking the Tincture off, greatly reduces your damage, right? So this is not going to be totally representative of your damage all the time, but 3 million Uber DPS is okay, and you can definitely do Ubers on it. So that's kind of my plans, guys. I really don't have much else. I will leave POBs and stuff in the description, but I hope you guys have a good league start. I'll be streaming a little bit. I don't know what my plans are like that, but we'll see how this goes. And then hopefully we can farm up for like a champ armor stackers, kind of like where my head is at. But anyways, guys, enjoy. See you later.